This is what we're making, a ring using jump rings. Basically, we're making a ring shank out of jump rings, and like a regular ring, you need to get the diameter of the ring using your ring sizer. You need to know the thickness of the wire for your jump ring, because you're going to have to add that and then multiply by pi, 3.14, to give you your length. Now, I would suggest that you draw full size your length on a piece of paper. Mine is 60 millimeters, and this will give you something to work to. Now, what I would do is I would figure out the size jump ring I need, just because we want an even number of jump rings. That's actually wrong. We just want a number of full jump rings to be able to go from one end of our ring shank to the other. It can be an even number, it can be an uneven number, odd number. It doesn't really matter. The ring sizes can be different. The jump ring sizes can be different. You'll notice that these aren't closed. I'm laying them in position so that I can see if they come out correctly. If it's slightly short, that's great, because we can always stretch the ring a little bit. Now, the first ring I did was after closing the jump rings as good as I could get and filing a small flat on either side. I soldered them end to end like this, but I thought afterwards that if we actually put them like this, it would make a more interesting ring, just by shifting them up one on top of the other instead of end to end. You can use different size jump rings. It's up to you. Be creative. Like I said, the first one I just did end to end, and I'm happy with the way it turned out. But once again, it was just a beginning, because I thought afterwards, being a regular ring shank, it would look good with a basket setting on it. So that's my idea after I make the ring, is to make a basket setting that sits on top of it. So have fun with this one. Basically, you can just do a little bit of basic multiplication or division. If my jump rings were 6 millimeters in diameter, since this is 60, it would take 10 of those side by side. Just play with the different sizes, and to make your jump rings to a size, if say you wanted a 5 millimeter jump ring using 1 millimeter wire, you'd have to use a 3 millimeter mandrel, because you'd have 1 millimeter on either side, so it would actually be 2 millimeters bigger than the size mandrel that you're using. Have fun. For mine, I figured out I need 9 jump rings, 6.5 diameter. So I used a 5.5 mandrel, a 4.5 mandrel and 1 millimeter wire. Now, use your parallel jaw pliers to close these jump rings, and you want to get these as close as humanly possible, because when we're soldering all of these together, we want to use a small amount of solder and we don't want to have to go back and clean this up later because it'll make it look bad. So close all of your jump rings and then we'll lay them out. When you've closed all of your jump rings, take your flat number 2 cut hand file. Where the join is, file just a small flat, turn it to the other end and opposite another small flat. It just makes it so that these will solder together easier. If you have 2 round bits touching each other, it's really difficult to get a good solder join. If it's slightly flat, then you get a lot better solder join. So get your join right at the top of your parallel jaw pliers, and then if you just grab it straight on with your other parallel jaw pliers, the opposite side will be at the top automatically. So lay out your jump rings, and I've got a join to a flat on each side, a join to a solid ring. So I've got join, solid, join, solid. That way we won't have a join to a join, so it should look better. You can use a little straight edge to make sure they're straight. And if you have one that you filed slightly off, sometimes you can just flip it over and it'll line up the other way. So now, a little bit of flex, just one little spot of flex at each spot, and then we're going to put one piece of solder resting right on that spot. Keep your jump rings straight, because once they're soldered it's impossible to straighten them out. Place your solder with your flex brush, and these are 1.5 long pieces of hard solder, and I know they're 1.5 because I cut them with my solder snippers. You can get 2 different sizes of the solder snippers. I like the small one because oftentimes the big ones are too big. So be patient. Piece of solder at each spot. I'll zoom in so you can see. The other zoom in. So you can see I'm just placing it right where the jump rings come together. And get them all in position. Now we're going to just gently heat these until the flux dries out. And I'm just brushing the flame end to end. We want the solder pieces to stay in place. I've got one that has a little bit of a gap here, and what I'll do is I'll solder the end where they're all touching. And then when I get to that point, I'll use my solder pick to push everything into position. So just focus on one join at a time. If the solder is not quite in position, push it in position. Yeah. Then move to the next one. Then the next one. Done. Shift the piece on your charcoal block. If it's stuck, warm it up, shift it, quench it, and look at the back side. And if the solder needs to be flowed on the back, do that now. You don't have to add flux or anything, you can just flow it at this point. This is pretty good. It's what we want, a ring shank made out of holes. Now pickle this and we're going to form it into our ring, and that will be the test of all of your solder joints. If it's a good solder joint, you'll be able to form it. If it's not a good one, it'll break. Not a drama. Put the pieces back together and resolder it. I'm just pushing, using my thumb and fingers around the ring mandrel. It doesn't have to be perfect. What we want is for the end rings to touch so that we can solder them together. Use your flat half-round pliers to do your final forming. Get the ends so that they touch. I'm going to put it on a third hand, hold it joint up, flux one piece of solder in the joint just like we did the other ones. Gently dry out your flux. You want your solder to stay in place. If it doesn't, you can always shift it with your solder pick. Now, I'll back out so you can see. Leave me to get it backwards. So what I'm doing is I'm coming from the side so that my heat is just on that joint. If you solder this from the top, chances are you're going to unsolder the jump rings on the bottom. Don't do that. Ta-da. So now, quench it, pickle it, round it up on your ring mandrel, and polish it. Once you come out of the pickle, have a look at it. If it's all good on your ring mandrel, round it up with a rawhide hammer gently. You can stretch this if you want, but it'll make your jump rings into an oval. Flip the ring over, tap it on the other side. It's just so you don't hammer it into a cone shape. Check your size. Mine's one size small, which is okay. I can stretch it. If you want a hammered finish and it will leave your circles round, use your planishing hammer or a jeweler's hammer. Or if you want to just pull it down the ring mandrel to stretch it, it will make these oval. So your choice. When you have it the way you want it, put it on a wooden ring stick and polish it on tripoli, clean it, polish it on rouge, and you're finished. Now, I didn't hallmark it, so before you get to the point where you start polishing, hallmark it. You're going to have to tidy up the little spot where the hallmark is. Don't kill it, because it's really difficult to sand round wire and not have it be really obvious. So there it is, polished. There, if you really look, there are a couple of slightly visible spots where the join was. Like I say, take your time, get those joints as close as humanly possible, because it's difficult to make it look perfect if you don't.